Welcome back to the Playbook podcast, presented by Sharon and myself, Michael, from Builder Studio. We build stellar companies with entrepreneurs right here in Rotterdam. Today, we have with us Sohrab from Org. All right, let's get this going. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hi, so I'm Sohrab, one of the two co-founders of Org. Originally born in Iran during the Iran-Iraq war. So I actually have memories of watching the dogfights of Saddam's airplanes flying over our house with my dad. And then, so when I was around 5 years old, we left Iran we ended up in Germany. The plan was, I think, from my parents to end up in Canada. Then it switched to Sweden, and then very last minute they switched to Rotterdam. So remember us driving on January.
Canada, Rotterdam.
Yeah. Well, we had some old relatives there who said, "Well, at least you have done someone, instead of no one." Remember driving from Frankfurt to Rotterdam. It was January 1st, so there was fireworks everywhere on the ground.
Of course.
So for me, it was like, what's all this stuff on the ground? So that's when we arrived in Rotterdam when I was 5. And ever since raised there, did my high school Rotterdam, then went to do my bachelor's in computer science in Utrecht.
There you go.
Yeah, and already during my bachelor's, I was learning a lot of theory and on the computer engineering, but not much applying it, right? And I am a builder, so good thing I'm on this podcast, but I love building. So it was like all these theory and books, and I wasn't applying it anywhere. So I just started at home on the attic.
Wait, how old were you?
I was 17 when I went to uni. So in around 18, I was like, let me apply this stuff to something. So started building a website back. So this was 2002. Building websites before Facebook, before Hives, right? The people in the Netherlands remember Hives being the social network for the Netherlands back then. So I built this portal for all the events and party stuff happening in the bigger regions in the Netherlands, right? So Amsterdam, Utrecht, the Randstad. So we had this, and it grew rapidly because back then you didn't have websites about parties and pictures and all that stuff. So it became kind of the social hub for all the party goers in the
hold
Randstad.
up here. You said you want to make
it back.
you said what you'll learn, you want to put into practice.
Yeah.
So, what did you learn to make a party website that you said?
Well, you need. I loved going out, right? So I really
You
liked
learned going out, putting
it
it on a platform.
Yeah, so I was like, well, let me build something around that. It kind of blew up is a big word, but in the Randstad, everyone got to know it because they also went every weekend to see their pictures. Right? No one had phones in their pockets taking 7,000 selfies. So that one picture that was snapped from you on in the Now and Wow back then, for example,
of course.
then you would want to have it. So everyone was lining up to see their pictures the moment we would post it. Right? And you didn't have 700 selfies of that night. So this grew. And then I think it was like month 10 or 11 already, where a big publisher from Sanoma came knocking. So we have Sanoma Ventures and Ilse Media, they were named back then. Yeah. And they were building this whole portfolio of youth brands. And they thought we were a good addition because we had a lot of urban youth and none of their other brands was able to reach them, right? They had a lot of white audiences or girls or like people interested in celebrity gossip, and we were doing the urban parties, etc. So kind of sold the platform to them, but in kind of a construction where
after 10 months
10 11 months it was like 19 by then. And then they actually then asked me to rebuild the other portals they already had into the same style because I had a lot of social elements in it, right? Friends and connections, stuff that was new back then, that you can put comments under a picture, that type of stuff, and likes. So I rebuilt their websites and platforms into the same UX design, functionalities, and features. And I was then 20, right? And I was building these websites that are like millions of visitors in the Netherlands. So that grew, and then slowly because we had all these channels to reach people, we then also were being hired by big brands to do marketing towards reaching those audiences and set up concepts and organize special events. So that became a business. That was the second business.
But you did it under their flag, or could you venture yourself into this? I mean, was it Sanoma doing it or you?
No, this was then a separate from Sanoma. So they had the portals, but we were using the portals to do the kind of the marketing and communication services for the big brands then. Also because we were able to speak to and reach the youth. Like, Red Bull or MTV would hire us to reach those audiences that they didn't have other ways to reach.
Good old times.
Yeah, again, this is 2003 now.
Yeah.
So a whole different world. And then, that grew and grew, and then we started taking our own risk and organizing our own large lifestyle events. So we had huge events focused on, again, the same youth and audiences, but then with fashion, events, parties, online, offline. So a whole omni-channel type of blend of the brands we had. And then that attracted the VCs, focused on media and entertainment.
Of course.
So with their investments, we were able to scale and grow further, do larger things and take larger bets. But that's also the thing with large-scale events versus like a SaaS,
yeah,
right? You work towards it for like 11 months with the whole team, and then Judgment Day is one single day.
Yep.
Right, and in the Netherlands with the weather, totally unpredictable, right? So we have had multiple times that, you were in it for like 700, 800K of investment, and then it started raining at in the morning or something.
Literally.
Yeah.
That could happen. So so those things happened, but we were able to grow and get bigger and bigger. But then what happened? The LPs of our VCs got into a crazy crunch during 2008. So we're now in 2008 already.
Yeah.
And so they were not able to make the payments they promised to do. The VCs were not able to make our payments. And then literally everything stalled.
Then what? I mean, so far it felt like,
A big success.
smooth sailing.
Yeah, but too good to be true, probably, right? And that's also like the first deepest deep in my life was, of course, that moment, because what happened, the partner I had back then, it's like a marriage, right? Your business partner. So his dark side came out during those tough moments, etc.
You have been all along this journey with your co-founder?
Not only in the
back then?
last company, the
okay.
partner, until then it was just me.
Okay.
And so what happened was he transferred any remaining money we had on the business and disappeared with the money and himself.
Well, that's
Police
helpful.
was looking for him, the DAXs were looking for him, and the company was empty, right? So literally robbed, empty by him. So nothing else than that the employees had to file for bankruptcy, as they should, because of the legal protections they need. So then I was 24, and then a bankruptcy happens, right? No idea.
With your name on it.
Also. So, and everyone knows to find me. That guy has disappeared, and no one can get a hold of him. They don't care, right? They know where to find me. Just because I really believe in karma, I don't know why, but I decided then just own it, right? So the places where I made kind of payment agreements. Some places where I couldn't, I borrowed something from my parents. Luckily that they could then, lend me something. So it was not really my ass on the line then. And then, had to start paying off all that stuff. So that actually took me like 8 years.
You ran into this?
repaying
8
all this stuff. Yeah.
You continued to do so for 8 years?
I did.
Yeah, and could you start something new alongside, or?
Well, I could, because I was making payment deals, so I didn't have like the official bankruptcy, that you are literally as an individual bankrupt, because I was paying all these people to, again, it was the karma. Like I didn't think some other entrepreneur had to carry the burden of the decisions I made. And I was lucky enough that I could get the jobs that, could give me the resources to pay and keep paying, right? So then I was 24. And then I had to go, and that was also like too deep into the events, marketing, communication, that type of lifestyle. And super nice if you're 24 and doing all that stuff. But I fast forward myself. I didn't see myself doing that when I was 35 or later.
Yep.
And my fingers were really itching to be back in tech, like real tech and
because your role might have
software.
shifted a bit more to the business side, if I can.
Business
marketing and talking about concepts and branding and that type of stuff. Super nice and interesting. It's just
creative on the other end.
Being really, really in the tech was, what was also aching to get back into. So went back into tech, and since then I've had multiple like COO, CTO roles in mainly B2B SaaS companies.
And then you joined others or started them yourself again?
No, I was kind of that much traumatized. I needed a couple of years to recover and, find the next thing to really do. Yeah. That next thing literally came 16 years later. So, it didn't happen overnight. But I was then always like the second person next to another founder, helping them, where they are like the visionary founder, but sometimes also... unorganized. And I was then the person inside that makes sure the internals tick like a Swiss watch. Tech, the talent, all that stuff just ticks. And they can focus on being the visionary entrepreneur and being out there. So I did that in multiple different roles. But because of my all the entrepreneurial stuff that happened early in my 20s, I never started my master's. I only finished my bachelor's, and I had like 12, 13 employees, so never started a master's. But being the son of an immigrant mom, right, you never accept it until you have a master's degree, right, of course. So
you had to?
That was one of the reasons. But I also noticed because of the bankruptcy and coming from software engineering, like how much I didn't know about business. So instead of doubling down on doing a more technical master's degree, I then decided to do an executive MBA to learn the basics from scratch again. Even though you pick up snippets from how to do HR, how to do taxes, but now really build it up from the ground up, knowing how much I didn't know. So started doing my executive MBA in part-time in the evenings, weekends here in Rotterdam, RSM. And while working full-time as a CTO. And then coming out of the MBA, there was like 2 years, really long.
Grinding it out.
Yeah, because it was Friday nights, Saturdays, and Sundays. You had to go to school. No breaks.
Hey.
And then towards the end of it, started looking for jobs or what to do next. And that's
right, so you graduated with flying colors, went back to your mom and said, hey, I got it.
Yeah, literally.
And then all the bets were off, basically, right? Then you're at a fresh start.
I mean, I had a couple years to go for paying all that stuff off.
Really?
Yeah, so this was in parallel with the payments happening. The next job allowed me to speed up the payments. So what happened was... I had also a very technical background coming out of the MBA. So headhunters started knocking on my door. It turns out one of them was headhunting for McKinsey for the new digital practice that they were building. So McKinsey Digital wanted to do much more tech transformation. So they were looking for people with a technical background, but who are able to meet the standards that they have. So I started doing my interviews there. And that was literally the last month of my MBA. And then so first Monday of January, I started at McKinsey as a digital associate. And from there, did 2.5 years all over the world, really cool tech transformation roles. But you're outputting PowerPoint slides to other leaders, and you're like, oh man, if I could
at least you could
implement this.
At least you could pay the bills.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I was always abroad, so I didn't have much expenses back home because he was always sleeping in hotels anyway. So you're delivering all these strategy work for CIOs and CTOs on how to do stuff. But then my builder hands were itching again. Like, oh man, if I could actually implement this and not like deliver the PowerPoint and go
never
to the next project.
Something.
It ends up somewhere in a shelf and 10% of it ever gets implemented.
If it does, yeah.
Yeah. So, it was time like, okay, I learned, it was 2.5 years in. back to the scale-up startup world.
Yep.
So went back and did like, in 2 to 3 different roles, again, COO, CTO in scale-ups. And it's also where I met my co-founder in the last role, Tony. And we came up with the idea of Org, quit our jobs, and then started building 2.5 years
How did you come up with that? Right? I mean, you guys were... And what kind of company were you working together?
So it was a big wholesale platform for fashion brands. So we had brands such as Puma, Echo Shoes, the bestseller group, who did all their digital wholesale to their retailers on that platform.
What happened? What's like? Tell us about this founding story. How did you guys come up with this?
So there we were building this platform for wholesalers to sell to the retailers. And of course, these huge companies have different ways of doing wholesale. Right? Like how Puma does wholesale is totally different than how Echo does. But it's not even like how Puma does it. It's Puma China versus Puma Brazil.
They all have their own.
Yeah, and some have distributors and some have special deals. Some give logistics for free. Some don't. It's littered with business rules, right? Supported by a huge SAP installation behind the scenes. But how do you then support this through your platform? All these business rules so that people actually do use the platform and not say, well, my business rule doesn't apply here, so I need to call. And we came up with the business rules engine that is able then to, in a flexible way, manage this and all these weird configurations that were needed. So towards the end of our job, Tony and I were like, hey, but every SaaS company has this problem, right? About how the SaaS should work for different client segments in different markets in different languages, and how do you turn on and off something for an enterprise account versus a free account, right? You guys probably recognize this.
No, but it's everywhere in software. Yeah. When you get to business rules, you're probably also very knee deep in like the scaling of your company already.
Yeah. But even like the earliest startups,
everyone has like his own perspective on how they want to see it work, because we are all familiar with software and we know like everything is possible, right? So if I want it or if you want me to pay, then you need to build it in the way how I want.
Exactly, right? And even like you have a free account and a basic account and a premium in your SaaS. That's already business rules you need to manage, right? So you're like, oh no, in Germany we have these payment methods, and in the Netherlands we have these business rules, right? So the moment you start thinking about it, it's littered with it. And we were like, so what's a uniform way we can abstract this away for companies to leverage this? So initially we started as Orquesta, we recently renamed, and that was a platform for to manage business rules for your software in a very user-friendly, easy way, so that actually a product manager or a business analyst could manage the business rules. Yep. And it was not like hidden somewhere in the code, and you needed 2 engineers and a whole pipeline to get that out. So the product manager can say, hey, let's enable this for the free tier and see if we get more traction or not. Kind of feature flags on steroids for literally. But very advanced feature flags you could inject in the right place, in the right code. And then, so that was the first year we were building this and bootstrapping. I had 2 consulting jobs on the side. Tony had 3 to keep the lights on. We had the first employee.
And then only with 2 of you? Oh, first employee.
Yeah, and so one colleague also joined us from the previous job, Christy, who's still with us. She just did first 2 years. She finished with us already.
Nice.
And so we had culturally, everyone knew each other already. We could run and walk really fast together. But we were bootstrapping, trying to find a market for the product, etc.
It's a hard problem to solve, or to find the pain, or to find the person exactly at that point in time of their...
And the funny thing is, like, everyone recognizes the moment you show it, and like, oh wow, this is really useful.
Yeah, after they did something else.
But it's always the discussion between painkiller versus vitamin, and hygiene. Everyone recognizes that they need to do hygiene, but it's never top of priority for a fast-moving company.
Yep.
Towards the end of the first year, we saw that one of our design partners, who was already using us and dabbling around in it, they were actually using it for something for prompt management. And that was like they were very early access to OpenAI APIs. And they were already doing that stuff even before the general public knew it. And so their use cases grew and grew because managing a prompt is also just a feature.
They're almost
like
like
a
making
configuration.
It's almost prompt engineering, but then based on parameters and
and you need to version control it, and in different contexts you want to maybe use a different prompt, etc. And you need to roll it out first in a dev environment, then in the test, and then in production. So you need typical software tooling, but for new types of systems. So we added more and more features to support that. And then early 23, this whole boom of Gen AI came, and where we saw like, oh, let's really double down on this part and less on the configuration management, the business rules management. It's still all in there because all the foundations built are literally there. So we never did a technical pivot, not needed, because the whole system was already built to do all these things a software team needs. It's just a different focus on managing initially prompts, and now it's just a much broader suite of tools to do your work as a team.
So you basically bumped into it whilst working with your design partners.
Yeah, literally. It was even him who pushed us. Like, hey guys, maybe you should consider this thing is gonna be big. So it was early 23 where we were like, okay, we only focus on this. Also in the communication, right? It was weird to communicate these two things next to each other.
Yeah,
and
they seem close, but they're not.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I don't know what those two things together mean, right?
No, people always try to put as many words as possible to just like get everyone on board or get everyone just in a way convinced to try it out at least, but less is always more.
Exactly.
And then this feels like a smart move, right? You're now early to the wave.
Yeah.
Right. Well, with the business rules, we had these issues since. I mean, I've been in software for 25 years. We've had it.
You can use it if you want.
But since the beginning, you have these issues, right? But now the pain is I don't really have the right answer, right? And that's when you guys come in.
Yeah.
So tell me, typical, ICP of the people that started using your stuff in production, is that more or less somebody who starts a new project or company, or is it already up and running and they're running into big issues?
So it's in the middle, and we see that already in our qualifiers and disqualifiers when we're talking with prospects or inbound interested companies. Have you done one or two projects internally? Most of the times they didn't end up in production, but they really did their best to build something actually. Right, got a couple bloody noses and some pain and friction, and then they're like, "Oh, we need something proper for this. This is not scalable, right? We cannot move fast enough. We're not in control of the beast, right? How can we get better?"
Can you give an example
of being in control
of such a project which they do try to create internally?
Oh yeah, we have so many. Let me find an interesting one. So, like, we have an educational client who publishes high school books, literally like for language and maths, etc. So they want to empower teachers to use their content better, right? So their IP, and they have multiple companies throughout Europe. So first of all, how can these companies across Europe leverage each other's work?
Yeah.
Well, then you need to do localization and translations at mass.
Yeah.
But then it's like, how can we repurpose our existing content, like one big pool of content for different reading grades, for an 8-year-old, for a 12-year-old, for a 14-year-old, same IP but different grades. So then you need educational experts that know what is good or wrong, right? A senior Python engineer cannot say, yeah, this looks like something for a 12-year-old to learn better maths or Dutch, right? So how do you get the domain experts closer to the engineering team to build the things right and iterate quickly, right? So you don't have an email coming in with a new prompt, the engineer copy pastes that, does a whole pipeline kickoff, and then somewhere in 2 weeks it shows up somewhere, and then the person needs to test it and they get a CSV dump. that they then color code, send back to the engineer. Well, you recognize the process of how it should not be done. No. And this allows them to literally be in one platform and say, where the domain experts say, this looks wrong, or this is not correct, we need to work on this. The engineer can monitor latencies and typical software metrics. And then the product manager checks like costs. Are we burning too much? Does it even make economical sense to put this in production? Because we're burning 1,000 euros for every 200 euros we make. Shut it down, right? So the right discussions happen with the right people in one source of truth instead of, again, Slack messages and CSVs going back and forward.
Because it would be that in-between layer in production as well, right? So
yeah.
So you'll start off, I have this problem you just talked about, it's educational.
Yeah.
Normally you would get results and some domain expert would say, well, this is crap.
Yeah.
And now you would say, hey, look, the thing, let's say the prompts, the queries we created to go towards large language models, you'll see the outcome that comes from it, and you'll be basically at the source saying, it's something minute or big. So are you then fixing it there as well, or changing models, or is it just pinpointing it more or less?
You mean what we do or what they will do?
Well, hopefully you do, so that they don't have to. Yeah.
So we don't do it yet. Because the use cases are so diverse, right?
Sure.
From repurposing high school maths to having an AI-powered personal assistant that generates workouts for users, right? It's all in between. So we haven't cracked that yet, how we can help on doing the whole use case for them, of course, but at least making sure that everything is surfaced and they have the tools to do that. So for example, with our human in the loop, that domain expert can literally say, hey, this response from the LLM is like almost there, but if he would have said this, so they can make a correction on the response, then that correction and that log is labeled as golden.
Yeah.
So for future experiments and for fine-tuning activities, okay, we have these golden curated data sets, right? And then all of a sudden super powerful, because every log is almost a ticket that has a status and an assignee and can be worked on. And you create this continuous cycle of putting stuff in production, learning from it, and then iterating on it.
And they'll put it back into their own production-grade software and then check if the results get better, or there's any tweaking in your platform as well.
Yeah. So we have the whole, from the simplest playground to running mass experiments with custom evaluators, custom quality controls, a more complex concept named LLM as a judge, right? Yeah. So you can use one LLM to review the output of the other one. All that is then built in. So you have your confidence levels are high. Then you can put it in production. Even then you have our business rules engine to really tweak. Okay, I first want to see it on my dev environments. Now on staging. And now in production, only the beta users. And now I want to open up to everyone. So the product team has very granular control of what goes to whom, when. All right, so we're now onboarding a big client that is managing 100,000 prompts.
Yep.
Where they do mass translations for specific verticals like life sciences and logistics.
Can't be wrong.
Very
basically.
Full of jargon that you cannot just send to Google Translate. So per domain, sometimes per client, because of tone of voice, right? One client talks more formal, the other one is more hip and informal. Per languages pair, they tweak and monitor the prompts and the quality of those prompts. You need serious tooling for that, of course, right? You cannot do that in Excel sheets then anymore.
Yeah, you take a big part, I assume, is that you describe the problem as more as an engineering problem, right? You as the builder. But it sounds like you're, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're also getting more of the other problems solved, right? So it's not just the Q&As, but also the business that wants to get involved, how the black box works, basically, right?
Yeah, so looking back, I'll turn 40 this year, right? Like this whole crazy journey I've been through.
Yeah.
Also gave me my tools to see this, right? It's we're now going through a next paradigm shift, a new transformation. Every company, every client that we have needs to go through a transformation. Just like when they did when internet came out, when mobile came out, when big data was a thing. This is also a transformation.
And now an implementation phase.
Exactly. And just slapping on some tech is not gonna get you there, right? You only have bloody noses and maybe you end up on the front page of the Financial Times, right? Which no one wants. So how do you bring your whole organization along? Again, it's not only just slapping on some tech. It's really how do we change people our talent? How do we retrain them? So we democratize this whole new wave, and people can be part of it. It's not just this black box where those couple of PhDs of AI are messing with. Everyone can see, can look, can touch, feel that they can tweak and tune it a bit.
But do you then see that like within an organization, like different departments using your tool for just specific angles? Or do you see it that they use it more as a whole? Or what is then the use case of it?
So different clients have different use cases. So like we have startups, natively born generative AI startups. They want to move fast. Right, they're not yet that busy with compliance and data privacy, etc. Right, no. Can't blame them yet. So how can they move fast? So they love our tooling because they can just iterate so crazily fast, not maintain all that pipeline work and commodity under the ground. They really focus on their value add on top. Then we have like a bit more matured scale-ups and SaaS companies who are maybe not natively AI born, right? HR SaaS or accounting SaaS. And now they're like, how can we infuse our software with AI without having to hire 8 PhDs and all that stuff?
Yeah.
So they need other types of tooling because product management is already a bigger thing there, etc. Then we get to the enterprises, and we have, again, very different flavors of enterprise clients already. And they have then more internal process re-engineering.
Yeah.
So they have existing processes. How do we do marketing? How do we do sales? How do we do account identification? And so that knowledge sits in the business domains, right? The AI engineers have no idea how the marketing team processes work, how they generate new content.
And they co-create a module with you, and then you can reuse the module.
Well, the use case, yes. The models sit underneath it, but they do the use cases they build. So one of our clients literally trained 90 people from the business side in prompt engineering and using LLMs in a safe and secure way. So what they do, those people are full of ideas on how to make their own lives easier, right? Automate shitty work. And so with this, in a safe and secure environment, so the data of the company is not flying to random agencies and random platforms, the people can test their hypotheses, get a higher confidence of there's actually value here. Like how we do our landing pages, we can, with Gen AI, we can speed up that process. So they increase their level of confidence, and then they request engineering capacity.
Yeah.
So the scarce engineers are freed up to work on the things that have kind of a higher level of confidence. At the same time, those people feel empowered. They're not stuck behind Jira tickets and requirements documents.
Let's go back here because we can sell it that way. But is that what your platform is for? Is it actually there to do, I would say, the prompt engineering, or is it the implementation of a prompt within a software package as well? Because the confidence levels, all the stuff you're talking about. Is a selection somebody gives me and I just use this, this is for the landing pages. I double checked it. You can go here. Is it something you do in your platform, or is it something you implement in your own?
No, so just the prompt is one of the many attributes you need to manage. There's a whole
it feels
different...
it's like a layer you put into your own software product.
Yeah, right? So we're really a gateway.
Right.
So just like you would use a Stripe for payments.
Yeah.
You use us for your AI models.
Yep.
So our gateway is connected to now 100 models or 100 plus, and clients can hook up their own privately trained and fine-tuned models, and then use those, and then hook up their backends to our gateway.
Yep.
So they abstract away all the pipeline and the mess of security, safety, scalability, redundancy, etc. And they just focus on building the use case. So their backend just calls our gateway to handle all this logging, monitoring, versioning, resiliency, etc. Retries, fallbacks, typical software things you need, but it's a bit different in the world of Gen AI. And then you have multimodality on top of it, right? So you don't only have text models, but you have vision, image, text-to-speech, speech-to-text. How do you route the different workloads to different models?
Yeah, and then I can
probably need a business rules engine as well.
I guess so. But look, the main issue always will come up. Look, if you, everybody will say the following, right? When AI gets better, whatever we do gets better, right?
Yeah.
So we use a model, and that model, when it evolves, we evolve. I can imagine when it evolves, and you actually turn your product into the next version of GPT or whatever you like to use, it basically gives you back way different results, hopefully better. That's something you should do in some sort of versioning instead of one big play. Is that what you're basically democratizing? That your own people, your business people, could go into your platform and say, "Look, let's check up what we've done and what the results now are, and let's train or filter whatever we've done till date."
Yep.
Is that a good business case?
For us, you mean, or for them?
Yeah, but for everybody, because how are you doing it without is my question out loud here. Because if you use it, it will remain a black box. Have you seen it coming in as legislation yet? People are saying, "Hey, look, if you don't use something, I can check up what you're actually getting back as results. I'm not going to use your product." So your gateway or something similar needs to be in there.
But again, a lot of times, especially the bigger the company, the less risk taking they are.
Of course,
rightfully so. So they need their people, their teams to be really confident, right? We're onboarding now 2 medical companies, who summarizes patient files and patient-doctor interactions.
Helps to be correct there, yes.
Yeah, and you need to really show, like, "Hey, dude, look, I've run 1,000 tests, right? And we have the audit trail for it, and right, the typical steps you need to show for compliance. But that's also, how can you do that better and smarter? So that medtech company is literally today. I had a call with them, and I opened their workspace to check along what they've been doing. So one of their engineers, we never onboarded that person, didn't speak to that person. They run like 1,000 tests with their own custom evaluators and LLM as a judge they configure, and a whole heat map with all how each model is performing against their use cases. And we're like, this is the hypothesis we had. Like, without 2 PhDs, someone should be able to do this. And we open the workspace, and it's literally there on a very complex medical use case.
It's making it, you can get those insights, all of you can, right? Instead of, you're saying the 2 PhDs, but I feel like it's also, if business doesn't know what the hell you're doing, why would they implement something, right? It's getting to that level.
Yeah.
How much of this is timing for you guys? Because I also feel like if everything in AI is moving at, that kind of pace, you must not be the only one doing this.
Nope.
So how much of this helps that the timing of everything AI comes your way? And how much is it that you feel like, hey, we found that USP nobody else has?
It's probably chicken and egg story, right? So sometimes we need to follow, sometimes we need to take our own bets on, okay, we think the collaboration is really important, and it should not be just a dev tool with a bunch of code snippets and Jupyter notebooks. It's a bet you take, because maybe only the engineers will play with it, and it needs to. And engineers don't like no-code tooling, right? they like Jupyter notebooks, right?
But nowadays.
Depends.
Not.
But I mean, still, especially because this is all new, what we notice is...
they want to tinker, of course.
They're like, "Oh, this is new tech. I want to do it myself." We even literally got one feedback of an engineer when one of our people did an outreach. And he's like, "Your platform looks cool, but I really just want to build it myself," because it's so new for them, right? It's not like maintaining some boring credit card integration.
It's also like, companies ask different things from them, right? They ask more and more, so they should also, take the advantage of that they can use this kind of things.
Yeah, so that's why it's we notice for us also a healthy push top down is needed.
Yeah,
where someone says, "No, guys, I know you can do it, but we have bigger fish to fry, right? We're literally existential. Some of our clients have literally existential problems because of AI." And some is, we need to remain relevant and keep pushing. So why do we want to maintain everything ourselves? We're also not running our own data centers anymore, right? So you need that top-down push of, no, we need to scale. No, the domain experts need to be involved. It cannot be just Excel sheets flying up and down in the org.
Is there a push to be able to switch LLMs easily? Because I was looking at somebody was present at a Sequoia business meeting, and they were saying, "Look, if you do LLMs and you cannot switch them, it's going to be very hard for us to talk with you for longer term things, right?" I can imagine, because there's all kinds of political reasons and there's tech reasons, and you can not even to say how good everything is. Is this the best way to do it? Have this middle layer to check on what you're doing as a security to basically be able to switch later?
Well, you need a uniform API to communicate with them. So you don't have to... So these 100 models, for example, coming from, I think, 9 different providers.
Sure.
There's many more. No one is asking for it, right? So we didn't implement them because we could have had 75, but no one needs them. how do you say? All these APIs are the same, but not the same. They all just have slightly different things and features, etc. And by having this, you don't have to worry about, oh, but this API, I also need to do a function call and send my messages in this way, and we need to rebuild it in the code so we can talk to this new API.
Yeah.
On the way here, I was one of our clients called. And we're now doing a vision use case, scanning invoices and writing that into an ERP. And he's like, yeah, I'm sending this to Anthropic Haiku, but I get the error request. But now I switched it to Google Vision, and then it works. So it must be because of Anthropic's API, right? So because Google just perfectly works with the same image. Because of a toggle, he was literally able to reroute it to Google, and because he was preparing for a demo. And at least his demo is now not under pressure. While we are now looking on why Anthropic doesn't do what it needs to be doing. That's the flexibility they have. And you only will appreciate it in these moments.
Yeah, so the timing here is...
you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah, and that's good, because the problems we have now, they're new.
Yeah.
That's why the timing is solid, I assume.
Yeah.
Because I've seen stuff like this before, also from Microsoft itself, for example. You could use other models.
Sure.
But it's not easy to use. And it doesn't feel like I'm actually training something. It's just getting results in test phases.
And that's always, like, if it's not question number one, is pushback number two we get is, but we have this in Azure AI Studio or in Google Vertex. How are you different? But I'm like, okay, so you're going to give your HR expert a login to AWS to check the logs. Oh, no, never. Even your own people need like 2-3 AWS certifications before you allow them to log into the portal. You're right. It's like, never mind.
Look, easy sell.
I'm trying to slowly get to this timeline with you as well, to go to future trends.
Sure.
But out loud here, you're creating the same problem when you're saying we're the gateway, right? Mm-hmm. You're also making a conscious decision. This is going to be org.
Yeah.
So what's the pushback on that?
Well, you're always somehow locking yourself in with whether the language model, which language model you use, which programming language you use, which cloud provider you use, right? So it's just the composability allows this. And for example, some of our clients ask us, well, if we decide to use you guys, and one day we decide not to use you anymore, what's the pain we have to go through? I'm like, well, you just need to spend an afternoon copy-pasting your prompts back into your code, and then you're
you
done,
basically
right?
standardized your query
open heart
already.
surgery. And then, you have to go back to your Spartan methods of knowing what the AI is doing. But it's not like you're selling your soul in a way.
Yeah, there's a way out.
Easily, right? And some of our, we also provide different flavors. So some clients only use us as a configuration manager and not as a gateway.
Sure, but then what's the defensibility if the out is also easy? Today, what's your guys' biggest defensibility as a company?
Well, just making sure people really want to work.
Yeah.
Because it makes life so much easier, right? So you create this pull instead of this. You get the push from the clients towards you.
Market.
So pull. Instead of we're locked in, so that's why we have to use it, right? You don't want to be the oracle. I don't want our company to be the oracle of the world, where everyone is just locked into these crazy knife on your throat contracts, right? But they're like, no, we really just love using the software. So please,
spoken like a true builder. So I'd like to go to this last part if we could. From your point of view, you have more access to most of these backends and models than most do, right? Mm-hmm. Where do you see the trends going in terms of what it's used for? Right, the use cases for you is just saying I'm going more into Viz AI, but you're on top of this. What's the most interesting or trend you see coming our way in terms of this type of technology?
So the models, they're getting more and more just on par of each other, and then it's more of just a preference thing on the tone of voice, or for your use case, which model you like a bit more.
Oh, we need a step change. I can hear it coming,
Yeah, but it's more the ease of how can I bring in my own data, right, with RAG and etc. And now more and more is how can we give these LLM calls access to APIs to also do the next step of using an API, right, getting into agent technology.
Yeah. Removing one layer and going one deeper.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to bring and do you guys support that already?
No, not already. Working hard on it to again be able, because we built everything no code, and the constant decision we're trying to make is, can a domain expert use this without freaking out?
Otherwise it was already there, but now it's...
Yeah, we can slap it together and it will work. It's just how can we give an Apple-like experience in the platform? And that always just takes a bit more of letting the dust settle, and not weekly jumping to the next research article on how...
You just gotta build an entire Zapier user interface to be able to do this. But running the agent there, that's when it gets a bit... talking about defensible, right? Then the machine runs on the machine.
Yeah.
And that's the future tendency for yourself. Anything else you see outside of your space?
But this is a future within like 1-2 years.
5-6 months.
Yeah, okay. So
for us, but before people start adopting.
Yes.
Because
people adopting 1-2 years max. But what is then the actual future? Because this is just like...
around the corner.
Around the corner.
No, I mean, it's
a future
building on top of each other, right?
Yeah.
So it's just going to be the next level of complexity built on this, right? So you have the LLMs, then you add their data, and then you add API calls. So then you have agents. Yeah. So then you have multi-agents, right? So it's how do you build atoms, molecules, and cells, right?
But you follow that trend, right? I think that's what you're also saying. We can only standardize it in a way or make it workable.
And what do you then see as a vision for Org?
So to be as flexible as possible to support whatever will come, right? And we already now can look forward, like what in the next year where we really need to be. Yeah. I literally don't know on more models, more things, more API calls. But it's just the vision for the company. But like literally what the product will look like, it is always gonna be collaboration, right? And bringing complex concepts and complex AI to the bigger parts of the organization, right?
Yeah, so the less tech-heavy people will be empowered.
Yeah, so that's always one of our three pillars are literally collaboration, democratization of AI, and bringing best practices. So our platform is quite opinionated, right? You cannot build everything you come up with our platform. Then you just need to go into code and work it. But we want to bring the best practices that we think is how you should do it to the bigger parts of the organizations, right? And we will never satisfy the bleeding edge 5%. It's just like the difference between, I want to build my own Formula One car. Yeah, well, you need 1,000 engineers and 400 million a year in budget.
Yep.
Or I just want the great Audi S8. And it just works for 5 years, right?
And do you then feel like getting back to the trend, which was in you, like the builder, getting the itch of like, I want to build. Now you're trying to reduce this element for every single person of like actually building. Mm-hmm. Do you then feel like that will come back one day, or?
Well, we're actually allowing more people to build.
But without the experience of actual building.
Yeah, but then it's a credibility discussion. Like, oh, you really need to be like in the codes to be a credible builder. But
for you, it did like spark something.
So, I mean, is it like, where do I get my joy out of building from then?
I think it's also like something like if you are like driven by something, that is something you most of the time want to bring to other people. Mm-hmm. So that is way more my question. Is that something you want to keep it in a way advanced, or like this similar feeling of like the old-fashioned building way, or is it like making it like more effortless as it goes?
More effortless, but and we have this on our roadmap to kind of also differentiate between roles in the platform.
Yeah, go advanced or...
Yeah, so then you can make it as crazy as you want.
So that's
but then again, is how do we not scare off the domain experts and product managers? Because that's the thing, right? The moment they open and they see dark mode and monotype code snippets, they're like, oh, this is technical.
This is not for me.
So how do we... But no one has that when they open iTunes, right? They're like, oh, this is too technical, not for me. So how do we give that experience, but indeed also then enable the advanced people to still do their thing?
Yeah.
And more and more in the developer experience. How can we then enable the developers that want to do stuff in code but still want to use a lot of our capabilities, right? Like the logging monitoring, everyone appreciates that they in real time see data flowing in. Oh, I'm burning so much money on this model, blah, blah.
I love the flexibility of it.
Yeah, so because of the composability of our platform, clients really pick and choose which components they need. So some clients only go until experimentation. They don't go further yet. And others are hardcore in production with 100,000 prompts. And so it's really the composability. That's typical like enterprise architecture anyway, right? Composable architecture. That's why you also want the interchangeable models.
You do.
To fit into your composable architecture guidelines as an enterprise.
All right. Well, that sums it up, right? I mean, those trends are coming, and you're basically jumping on the ones that stick, not the Formula One car, but I would say the fast cars that the majority wants to use, and not just for the engineering, but also, let's say, for the product folk, right? I'm assuming not everybody in every role is interested in it, but they could be. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and you always have in every department some people that are just a bit more head and more gadgety and more hacky, and they want tooling, but they're not Python experts. So how can they do their?
I'd like to add on you, Sharon. Maybe you're just building more builders. That's also nice. All right, cool.
Yeah.
We have to round it off.
That was quick.
That is quick, though. I'm looking at this. Take to myself is, are we doing this wrong most of the time as engineers because we like to build so much ourselves? Because of the pleasure of building, right?
I think that is the general sense, right?
And we should not do that.
No.
So in my time as a consultant, I've looked in many kitchens, right? And that is something where value is lost, is engineers or just individual contributors, either because of they want to maintain their role or they just want to build themselves, are able to bullshit some complexity and confuse other decision makers of no, this we really need to do it like this or else it's impossible. And then 6 months, 9 months, nothing comes out, a lot of heartache, time lost, and then they still need to go back to the market or no one will own that decision or accountabilities. And I think I've seen that in so many different settings.
But it's the magic of creating something out of nothing, what really feels or gets that spark in every single person.
Yeah, but are you creating value for your company then?
Yeah.
Or you're definitely building. I can't argue with that. But
that for sure.
Are you creating value for your company, which should be the mission, right?
I think not at every
you're
single
destroying
stage.
value at the same time while being building.
Destroying value, but also time, and it's just a waste. Yeah.
And the cycle times are crazy. So
They are.
it's literally weeks and months, not years and decades anymore.
Right.
True.
Cool. Well, that's why I need org. That's basically what you guys are saying, huh? So we have the small segment at the end where we basically ask the previous host or the previous guest a question they'd like to ask the next one without knowing who that is. I mean, we know, but they don't. So I got one for you, and I like this. The question the previous guest would like to ask you is, what is your gift and how are you giving that back into work and life around you?
Good one.
Yeah.
So for me, the gift is easy. I don't even have to think about it. It's really getting the dumb luck that my parents took me out of Iran and I was able to grow up here with every possibility and opportunity, to make out of it what I can. Looking at my cousins back home who are all doing okay, but the struggle is real there, and how much struggle I didn't have. Allowing me to do what I do. Yeah, it's just dumb luck, right? All the credits to my parents for doing that 35 years ago. But so that's the gift, right? Didn't do anything for it, just got it. But that brings then the...
How do you give it back?
How do you give it back? And for now, it's just making sure, like my team, my people, everyone you touch in life can be the best version of themselves. So that's the builder in me again. Like, how can I build great people, right? And great teams. Haven't touched code
Build
for like
your word.
I haven't touched code in many years, but building an organization, building people, it's also engineering and building in a way, right?
Yeah.
So that's for now. Longer term, I've bigger and crazier plans, but first we need to get to a couple of milestones with Org on the bigger levels of giving back. But that's the kind of the obligation I feel to.
Let's keep that spoiler and use this as the thumbnail.
Yes, that's for within a couple of months or years. We don't know. But do you have a question for our next guest?
Yeah. So again, just time gives you the opportunity to reflect. So now can zoom back in. What was the trip of 19 years? And the highs and the crazy lows, especially like as an entrepreneur, right? You have 6 kicks in the face and bloody noses, and then one little spark that needs to keep you going. So I'm super curious then, what was the lowest low? And how did the next person use it to be a better, stronger person, individual, professional?
Well, good luck to the one getting that question.
No pressure.
No pressure. Right. Man, so thanks for taking the time. I mean, the time flew by. I feel like we have 1,000 more things to talk about and nerd out on.
Yeah,
Nerd out on.
Let's geek out. But thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming over and having a chat with us today. It was a pleasure to meet you. It was the first time I did met you. So thank you for sharing all this information behind what you're building and whether you're after. Although you by yourself do not even know what's coming for in a couple of the next years.
We roll with the punches.
There you go.
I'm really curious and I'm sure you're going to rock.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Dankjewel.
Thanks.
I'll do a small round-off, then we're good to go.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that went by quick. I think we spoke like for 30 minutes, maybe even almost an hour with Sohrab from Org.ai. What do we get from this? More and more I'm thinking, if the technology is going so fast, it's more about how we use the technology, not just as human, but in your daily processes as well. And we tend to think, hey, we need to change the game. But basically, we need to change how we use what we got. And I think a perfect example is Sohrab here, on his journey to Canada still. But I'm glad we catched him halfway there. So tune in next time in the PlayPod. This is Sharon, myself, Michael, Sohrab, signing out, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.